Listen carefully. Most men spend their whole lives begging for attention, chasing people who don't even value them. But the truth is brutal and simple. The world doesn't reward the man who chases. It rewards the man who becomes. Impossible to ignore. You want women to chase you? Then stop sprinting after them like you have nothing better to do. A man who knows his mission doesn't run behind validation. He builds a life so powerful that validation starts running behind him. Every time you chase someone, you send a message to the universe, I'm not enough yet. But every time you choose yourself, your growth, your discipline, your purpose, the universe responds, this man is becoming dangerous. A man becomes attractive not by begging, but by building. When you grind while others sleep, when you choose purpose over pleasure, when you create value instead of seeking attention, your presence becomes magnetic. Your silence becomes louder than their noise. Your ambition becomes a gravitational force. Women chase men who are locked in, men who don't fold under pressure, men who treat their time like gold. A man on a mission is terrifyingly attractive because he is rare. He isn't desperate. He isn't lost. He isn't needy. He is focused, driven, and unavailable. And that's exactly why everyone wants him. You become the man they chase when you stop asking, do they like me? And start asking, am I proud of myself today? Because when your life becomes impressive, people notice. When you carry yourself like you know your worth, people approach. When you level up your body, your mind, your money, your discipline, they can't ignore you even if they try. Becoming that man is not about arrogance. It's about excellence. It's not about playing games. It's about raising your standards. It's not about rejecting women. It's about choosing yourself first so you can attract better later. When you truly understand what it means to focus on your mission instead of chasing validation, your entire life transforms from the inside out. Most men don't realize how much of their energy they waste seeking approval from women, from society, from people who don't even care. But here's the brutal truth that every high-value man learns sooner or later. The moment you shift your focus inward, the moment your mission becomes your priority, the world begins to shift its focus toward you. There is a power in obsession, in discipline, in purpose that cannot be faked. And once you tap into that power, you stop being invisible. You stop being ordinary. You stop being forgettable. You become the man people notice without trying. That is simple but deadly effective. The man who chases validation loses power, but the man who chases purpose becomes the source of validation. When you commit to something bigger than yourself, your ambition, your growth, your future, you instantly separate yourself from the masses. Most men are distracted. Most men are lost. Most men are addicted to being liked. But a man on a mission is different. He's sharper. He's disciplined. He's dangerous. He carries an energy that says, I don't need you to approve me, I approve myself. And nothing is more attractive, more magnetic, or more respected than that. When you commit to your mission, everything changes about the way you move. You wake up with intent instead of confusion. You spend your day building instead of scrolling. You spend your nights leveling up instead of begging for attention. Your purpose becomes your fuel. Your progress becomes your addiction. And without even realizing it, your life starts aligning with the man you always wanted to be. People around you feel the difference. Some get intimidated, some get inspired, but nobody ignores you anymore because you're no longer living like a man who needs the world. You're living like a man the world needs to keep up with. And here's where most men fail. They think the reward comes instantly. They want quick validation, quick love, quick results. But mastery takes time. Purpose requires sacrifice. You don't become a man worth chasing in a week. You become him when you stop chasing the temporary pleasures that distract everyone else, when you skip the pointless conversations, when you avoid the meaningless drama, when you stop explaining yourself and start proving yourself. Every hour you invest in yourself builds a version of you that is more confident, more grounded, more disciplined. And discipline is the language of high-value men. It's the foundation of respect. It's the currency of greatness. Every day, you choose your mission over validation. You train your mind to prioritize long-term power over short-term pleasure. You stop living for likes and start living for legacy. You stop caring about who notices you and start caring about who you are becoming. That shift alone transforms your presence. Your walk becomes more assertive, your decisions more intentional, your goals more serious. And suddenly, the same people who ignored you start paying attention. The same people who doubted you start asking how you did it. The same people you used to chase begin chasing you because success creates gravity and purpose creates pull. The real magic happens when your mission becomes so important to you that nothing can distract you from it. Not rejection, not opinions, not loneliness, not fear. You become emotionally bulletproof. You stop reacting and you start directing. You stop seeking energy and you start generating it. You stop waiting for someone to choose you because you're too busy choosing yourself. And this is that should wake you up. The moment you stop chasing validation is the moment validation starts chasing you. The more you focus on your mission, the more powerful you become. The more you build your life, the more irresistible your energy becomes. People don't chase men who chase them. They chase men who chase greatness. And when your mission becomes your priority, you don't just attract attention, you attract respect, admiration, loyalty, and opportunities that were invisible to you before. The man who focuses on validation becomes dependent. The man who focuses on purpose becomes undeniable. And the man who becomes undeniable never has to chase anything because everything naturally moves toward him. When you finally learn to build high standards and guard your time with the same intensity that you guard your dreams, you step into a different league of manhood. Most men don't rise in life because they don't realize what their time is actually worth. They give it away to distractions, to unworthy people, to empty conversations, to temporary pleasures that drain their potential. But the moment a man decides that his time is not cheap, the world begins to treat him differently. Time is the one resource you can never replace, and yet it's the one thing people waste the fastest. The here is simple but ruthless. If your time isn't valuable to you, it will never be valuable to anyone else. When you raise your standards, your entire life starts to reflect that shift. You naturally stop accepting disrespect, not because you're arrogant, but because you finally understand what you bring to the table. You stop entertaining low energy people because you no longer relate to chaos. You stop saying yes to everything because you recognize the power of a strategic no. A high standard man does not move out of desperation. He moves with precision. Every decision, every conversation, every commitment is chosen with purpose. He understands that every minute spent in the wrong place is a minute stolen from his future. The truth is, most people don't fail due to lack of talent. They fail because they don't know how to protect their time. They let anyone disrupt their focus, interrupt their momentum, or enter their life without qualification. But a man with standards builds borders, not emotional walls, strategic boundaries. He becomes selective, not because he thinks he's better than others, but because he refuses to live below the level he knows he's capable of. When you carry yourself like your life has direction, distractions stop feeling tempting. They start feeling expensive. Guarding your time is one of the most powerful moves you can make because it forces you to evaluate who deserves access to you. Not everyone qualifies to be in your space. Not everyone deserves your energy, your attention, or your presence. When you begin filtering people based on loyalty, ambition, consistency, and respect, something incredible happens. Your circle becomes smaller, but your life becomes bigger. You stop being surrounded by noise and start being surrounded by clarity. And that hits hard. The moment you stop being available to everyone, you become desirable to the right ones. People value rarity. Scarcity creates respect. When you are constantly available, people subconsciously believe your time has no worth. But when you move with intention, when you focus on your priorities, when you guard your time like a king protects his kingdom, you start to carry an aura of importance. You become a man whose presence is earned, not given. High standards also force you to elevate yourself. You can't demand excellence from others if you don't demand it from yourself. So you wake up earlier, you work harder, you think deeper, you hold yourself accountable even when no one is watching. You stop making excuses because your standards don't allow them. Your lifestyle becomes the proof that you expect more, not just from the world, but from the man you see in the mirror. And that internal elevation creates external attraction. Suddenly, people start treating you differently because they can feel the discipline in your presence. When you guard your time, you naturally start living with more peace, more clarity, more direction. No more pointless drama. No more wasted hours. No more emotional chaos. You become a man whose life is structured, intentional, and purpose-driven. That type of man doesn't chase, he moves. He builds, he chooses, and because he chooses wisely, everything he chooses grows. Opportunities grow, relationships grow, confidence grows. And this is the one that separates men who succeed from men who stay stuck. A man with high standards becomes a man of high value, and a man of high value doesn't need to beg for attention, respect, or love. His standards bring the right people to him, and his boundaries keep the wrong ones out. When you understand your worth and protect your time like it's the foundation of your success, you don't just elevate your life. You elevate yourself into the kind of man the world can't ignore. True strength is not something you talk about. It's something you carry. Quietly, consistently, and visibly in the way you walk, work, think, and respond to life. When you commit to building yourself physically, mentally, and financially, you do more than transform your life. You transform your identity. You stop being a man who hopes things get better and become a man who makes things better. And here's that should shake you awake. Your greatest attraction is not your looks, it's your capability. Women don't chase weakness. They chase power, direction, and stability. When you build your body, you're not just lifting weights, you're lifting your standards. Every rep is a reminder that you refuse to be average. A strong body sends a message the world can't ignore. You're disciplined, you're dedicated, you're dangerous. The gym becomes your battlefield. The sweat becomes your currency. The burn becomes your badge of honor. People notice the man who has trained himself to endure discomfort because strength, real strength, cannot be faked. When you walk into a room with a body built by discipline, your presence speaks before your mouth ever opens. But physical strength alone is not enough. A man must also build the fortress of his mind. Mental strength is what separates men who break under pressure from men who bend the world to their will. When you sharpen your mind, you stop reacting emotionally and start responding strategically. You become calmer, more patient, more focused. You stop letting small problems ruin your peace because you've built a mental armor that can withstand storms. And the here is brutal. A man who cannot control his mind cannot control his life. Mental strength isn't loud, it's silent, powerful, and deeply intimidating to anyone who lives in chaos. Financial strength is the third pillar of a man who is impossible to ignore. Money is not just currency, it's freedom, leverage, security, and confidence. When you build your finances, you build the ability to walk away from toxic people, low-value environments, and disrespect because you're no longer trapped by circumstance. Financial power gives you options, and options make you dangerous. It's not about being rich to impress others. It's about building a life where you don't depend on anyone. And women don't chase money. They chase the man who earns it because he represents stability, capability, and ambition. When all three strengths, body, mind, money, come together, something incredible happens. You begin to radiate power without trying. Your confidence becomes natural, not forced. Your presence becomes grounded, not shaky. You stop explaining yourself because your lifestyle explains everything. People start treating you differently, not because you ask them to, but because they can feel the strength you've built in silence. A man who is strong in all three areas cannot be manipulated easily. He cannot be controlled by emotions, by temptation, or by the opinions of others. He becomes the type of man who sets the tone in every room. The type of man others look up to. The type of man who doesn't chase because he knows his worth. And ironically, that's exactly when women start chasing him. Not because he tries to impress them, but because he has become impressive. Building strength in these three areas takes time, effort, sacrifice, and a painful level of self-discipline. But the reward is extraordinary. You become the kind of man who naturally attracts respect, attention, and loyalty. Your energy shifts. Your standards rise. Your life expands. You stop living like a man waiting for things to happen, and you start living like a man who creates his own reality. And here's the final that should light a fire inside you. The world bows to men who build themselves. Not the loud ones, not the lazy ones, not the ones begging for attention, the ones who grind in silence, upgrade themselves daily, and commit to becoming stronger in every dimension. Become that man, and the world won't just notice, it will follow. There is a different level of power in a man who is unpredictable, focused, and unavailable. Not because he is playing games, but because his life is too big, too disciplined, too mission-driven to be wasted on meaningless distractions. Most men live in a constant loop of seeking attention, replying instantly, being overly accessible, and letting anyone pull them into emotional drama. But the man who chooses to be unavailable for nonsense instantly becomes mysterious, valuable, and dangerously attractive. The is simple. When your time is rare, your presence becomes priceless. Being unpredictable is not about acting strange or confusing others. It's about refusing to be predictable in the way the world expects men to behave. Most men are too easy to read, too easy to influence, too easy to manipulate. But when you move differently, when your actions come from purpose, not emotion, you create an aura around yourself. No one knows exactly what you're thinking or planning, but they can feel that it is something bigger than the average man. That mystery pulls people in. Humans are naturally drawn to what they cannot fully figure out. When you are not glued to your phone, not constantly available, not always revealing your next move, you create curiosity, and curiosity creates attraction. Focus is the second part of this transformation. A truly focused man becomes a force of nature. When you're locked in on your mission, your fitness, your finances, your growth, your discipline, your energy shifts. You stop reacting to every message. You stop engaging with every distraction. You stop entertaining every person who wants a piece of your time. Your priorities become sharper, your routine becomes stronger, and your results become visible. And the here cuts deep. The more focused you are on your purpose, the less you care about the noise, and the more the noise starts caring about you. People begin wondering why you're so driven, why you're so calm, why you're so busy building yourself. That wonder is the first spark of attraction. Being unavailable is not about ignoring people. It's about choosing yourself first. When you're constantly available, you send a message, my life is empty enough for you to interrupt whenever you want. But when you're unavailable, because you're training, learning, working, improving, you send a different message. I value my time, my goals, my life. That instantly raises your worth. It forces people to respect your boundaries. It forces them to earn your attention instead of assuming they deserve it. And that flips the entire dynamic. The less you need others, the more they want you. When you combine unpredictability, focus, and unavailability, you become rare, and rarity is powerful. Your presence starts to feel expensive. Your silence starts to feel meaningful. People start wondering what you're doing, who you're becoming, what you're building. And that curiosity creates an invisible pull. Suddenly, the same people you used to chase are now watching you from a distance, trying to figure out how to get closer. They feel your absence. They notice your growth. They sense your rising value. A man who is always available is predictable, and predictable men don't inspire anyone. But a man who is building something, who doesn't waste time, who doesn't respond instantly, who chooses his life over low-tier distractions, he becomes magnetic. Women chase that kind of man because he represents stability, direction, ambition, and self-respect. He is not lost. He is not needy. He is not desperate. He is focused on greatness, and greatness is unbelievably attractive. And here's the final that defines high-value men. Your discipline is your mystery. Your focus is your power. Your unavailability is your value. When you move with purpose instead of emotions, you become a man others want to understand, follow, and chase. You stop being an option, and you become the prize. Neediness is the silent killer of a man's potential. It's the invisible chain that keeps him small, predictable, and easy to control. When a man is needy, he becomes emotionally fragile, seeking approval, constantly worrying about being accepted, trying to impress people who don't even value him. But when a man replaces neediness with discipline and self-respect, he undergoes a transformation so powerful that the world can't help but take him seriously. The is this: when you stop needing people, you stop losing yourself. And that shift alone turns you into a man others chase, respect, and fear losing. Discipline is the foundation of every great man's life. There is nothing more attractive, more respected, or more intimidating than a man who can control himself. When you wake up early because you said you would, when you train even when you're tired, when you remain calm in chaos, when you stick to your mission no matter the temptation, you show the world that you're not controlled by impulses. When discipline and self-respect merge, something extraordinary happens. You become internally complete. You stop needing validation because you validate yourself through action. You stop needing attention because you earn confidence through progress. You stop needing love from the wrong places because you finally love the man you're becoming. And this is where real attraction begins. People are drawn to a man who is whole because wholeness is rare. Most men are emotionally dependent, constantly seeking someone to make them feel secure. But when you become your own source of strength, you become magnetic without effort. Replacing neediness with discipline also frees you from emotional traps. The things that once triggered you no longer shake you. The people who once controlled your mood no longer have influence. You respond with logic, not insecurity. You think long-term, not out of fear. And this calm, grounded energy is exactly what makes you stand out. Women chase a man who is centered, who knows who he is, who doesn't break under pressure. They are drawn to the man who stays composed when others panic, who stays focused when others get distracted, who stays committed when others quit. That level of emotional stability is a superpower. Self-respect forces you to raise your standards. You stop accepting the bare minimum from life. You demand more from yourself, and therefore you attract more from the world. You stop begging for attention. You stop explaining your worth. You stop negotiating your value. Instead, you live in a way that commands respect. You walk with a posture that shows certainty. You speak with clarity. You look people in the eyes because you know you've earned your own approval. And once you respect yourself at a high level, you naturally become selective because you finally understand that not everyone deserves access to your time, your energy, or your heart. And here's the final that separates boys from men. Neediness is loud. Confidence is silent. Discipline is proof. Self-respect is power. The man who needs nothing from the world becomes the man the world wants the most. When you stop being driven by insecurity and start being driven by purpose, you rise so far above the average man that your presence becomes unforgettable. You transform into someone who doesn't chase, doesn't beg, doesn't plead. You become the man who sets the standard, holds the line, and walks forward with the kind of inner strength that makes everyone else pay attention. Become that man, and you'll never have to ask for respect, attention, or love again. They will come to you every time. A man's value is not measured by what he says he will become, but by what he actually builds, achieves, and proves through consistent action. The world is full of men who talk big, men who promise they will change, men who swear they will improve, men who claim they're destined for greatness. But talk is cheap, promises are fragile, and potential means nothing without execution. The that separates powerful men from forgettable ones is this. Results speak a language the world cannot ignore. When your life becomes evidence of your discipline, your ambition, and your hunger, you don't just rise, you dominate. Most men don't understand how powerful it is to live a life built on results, not excuses. When you wake up early because you said you would, when you grind through the day even when you feel tired, when you chase progress instead of comfort, you start forging a version of yourself that stands out in a world full of weak intentions. People don't chase men who might become something. They chase men who are already proving themselves every single day. A man with results doesn't need to speak loudly. His achievements speak for him. When you commit to becoming a man of results, you gain something far more valuable than admiration. You gain control over your destiny. Every goal you hit strengthens your confidence. Every milestone you reach sharpens your self-belief. Every victory, even the small ones, shifts your mindset from "I hope I can" to "I know I will." And here's another: success stacks. Once you begin to win consistently, the wins compound, the energy builds, and you start operating from momentum instead of motivation. A man with momentum is unstoppable. Becoming a man of results also forces you to level up your habits. You can't produce exceptional outcomes with average discipline. So you naturally start cutting off the behaviors that hold you back. Procrastination, laziness, meaningless distractions, and low-value people who drain your potential. You begin choosing long-term success over temporary pleasure because you understand something most men never realize. The work you do today determines the man you become tomorrow. Every decision becomes intentional. Every action becomes calculated. Every day becomes a step towards something bigger. Results also demand accountability. When you hold yourself to a high standard, you stop blaming others for where you are. You stop using excuses to protect your pride. You stop pretending that circumstances are stopping you, because a man of results knows that circumstances are only obstacles for men without strategy. The disciplined man doesn't ask, "Why is this happening to me?" He asks, "How do I conquer this?" That shift in mentality transforms you from a victim into a leader. And here's that stings, but it's the truth. Women don't chase intentions, they chase outcomes. They're drawn to the man who is actually building, not the man who keeps talking about what he'll build someday. They want the man who is moving forward, who is leveling up, who is proving his strength through action, not promises. When you become a man of results, your presence carries weight, your silence carries authority, your energy becomes magnetic because you represent capability, stability, and direction. A man with results becomes rare, and rarity creates demand. Everyone wants to be around someone who wins. People trust you more. Opportunities find you faster. The respect you used to beg for now comes without asking. You stop chasing recognition because your achievements make you recognizable. You stop seeking validation because your progress validates itself. You stop worrying about being chosen because your results make you unavoidably visible. When you live as a man of action, your life becomes an undeniable statement, one that says, I don't need to convince you, watch me. And that energy is the most powerful form of attraction a man can have. It's the type of energy that makes others want to follow you, learn from you, be around you, and invest in you. And here's the truth that defines greatness. A man of promises is replaceable, but a man of results is unforgettable. When your life becomes a reflection of discipline instead of dreams, when your actions match your ambition, when your results prove your identity, you become the kind of man who leads, inspires, and attracts without trying. Become that man, and the world will never look at you the same again. And here's the final truth. Chasing is cheap. Becoming is expensive. Most men want the woman, but they don't want the work. Most men want attention, but they don't want discipline. Most men want respect without earning it. Don't be that man. Be the man who wakes up hungry. Be the man who moves with purpose. Be the man who walks into a room and doesn't need to speak for people to feel his presence. Be the man who is so focused on greatness that everything else naturally falls into place. Because when you become that man, you don't chase, they chase.